Name two other people that jumped to another program and they recreated them. You know, that doesn't even happen on sitcoms, let alone pro wrestling.
All right, Kevin. In your opinion, will we ever see Hulk Hogan in the WWE again?
Yes.
Good answer.
Hey, Kev. In the documentary the WWE released about Macho Man Randy Savage, you looked extremely emotional when you were talking about his death. I was wondering if you could give us some insight on your relationship with Randy and if you had any good Macho Man stories.
I've got a bunch, but there's kids in the room. You know, I've never really had, besides Pierre landing on my head and us having that little tussle in Ottawa, up in Canada, I've never really had any problems with anybody in wrestling. You know, I'm just not that guy. You know, when you're 6'10", 320 pounds in my prime, I can fight, like, nobody's gonna fuck with you. And if you treat everybody like a human being, there's no reason to. You know, I was always nice to everybody. My whole thing in life is, I can't remember a time in my life that I was laughing and not having a good time. So I'd rather laugh than do anything else. So, I mean, I took Macho. If I couldn't see him, I could tell the story, but he's just right here. I'll see if I can talk around. I'm pretty intelligent. Let's see. We were in my home area around Detroit, and there's a infamous stop where you can get a massage. So it was snowing out, and Mosh was in a really bad mood. We were coming back from Kalamazoo driving to Detroit. So I decided that I would stop at this therapeutic massage parlor because it'd been a long road trip. He looked very worn out. And I sent him in the back and talked to the person and jumped forward to him now returning to the car. And Macho looks at me and goes, I had no idea that existed. So I just, you know, in furthering the story, that was Randy's first time to have shiatsu. So, see, I got around that, didn't I?
Very good. Even these guys didn't understand that.
No clue. Big fan, but the finger poker dude. Why, after taking Goldberg's streak, did you lay down for Hogan when you've got more future ahead of you? He may be a legend in his own right, but it's a title that you're just giving away.
You have to realize, some of us realize it's fake. When I beat Goldberg and turned around and gave it to Hulk the next week, Goldberg was crazy. But then I just laid down for Hogan a week later. I could have made a ton of money on merchandise and everything else if that was what I wanted to do. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Do you know how many, more people, if you have moments in your career, and whether they're good or bad, if people remember them, the thing was, everybody wanted to watch me fight Hogan that night, and we didn't give it to him. And the reason that everybody hates the finger poke of doom is there wasn't a fucking soul on the planet that saw that coming. Not one. And what's that? Yeah, I'll say it was different. And I'll tell you another thing on top of that, when you watch that back, probably the best bump I took in my career.
All the way at the back of the wall now.
I mean, anybody you didn't work with, you wish you could have in your active career.
What's that?
In your active career, anybody you didn't work with that you wish you could have.
In my active career, I never really got a chance to work a singles match with Steve Austin. That would be one. I'd like to work with Finn now. AJ, I was blessed to get a chance to work with AJ. No, I mean, I think I've worked with just about, God, I've been pretty privileged to work with just about everybody that was somebody.
Anybody else doing that active program?
Anybody that I would want to have a feud with? Well, I mean, T-shirt wise, I'd love to have one with Steve when he was making 50% of his T-shirts. I could ask for at least 25 on mine.
Okay. Survivor Series, Bret Hart loses to Bob Backlund. A week later, Madison Square Garden, you destroy Backlund in seconds. What goes through your head when you're told that that's going to happen?
The funniest story about all that is, we were on a European tour, and we started in the UK, and then we went to Germany and ended up in Austria. I think we're in Salzburg. And it was just one of those nights where we were out like all night. We got on a bus, we had like a 6-hour bus ride, and it was one of those things like, if we don't keep this thing going, like we're gonna really feel bad. So we just kept drinking on the bus. We got in, I was working against Fatu, which ended up being Rikishi in a singles match. And I had already lost the Intercontinental title, and we lost the tag belts. So I mean, I was just kind of just doing my own thing. And we showed up, and Tony Gurria, like, was on the bus with us, and he got hot because we drank. And we were, you can say we were moving a little slow in the ring that night. At least I was. So when I got back, we got off the plane in JFK, and I was told that I needed to go see Vince immediately, and they were sending the limo for me. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, he's so pissed off at me, he's gonna fire me in person at his house. Like, this is like, I'm thinking, so I drive there, and I get there, and I'm sitting on the couch in his formal living room. I'm sitting on his couch. So the maid comes in and hands me the remote, and I'm watching TV. And he's, I just got off a plane. I've been traveling all day. I'm tired, so I take my shoes off and I say, just maybe lay down on the couch here for a second. And he goes, make yourself at home. I wake up, Vince is looking down at me, and he's shot up. I'm thinking, oh man, if I'm not fired, for sure I'm fired now. So he says, come on out to the pool. So we went out to the pool, and Vince's house overlooks the polo grounds in Greenwich. So you can imagine Vince has got a pretty nice mobile home. Single wide, I think, with an add-on. But I mean, Vince has got a nice house. And we're sitting out at the pool, and he says, I'm thinking of, Madison Square Garden putting the belt on. I said, the IC? He goes, oh, the world. I went, what? He said, yeah, we'll beat back and we'll beat him in like 10 seconds. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting fired? And then it was just like, so you're fine with that? I'm like, no, I don't want to be the world champion. I'm not fine with it. I said, absolutely. So I left and got in the car, and I was just like, and the whole way, now I'm driving, I've got to drive to Newark to catch my flight to go home. I'm waiting to get T-boned by a semi, and the minute we get in the air, I'm thinking both engines are this is never gonna happen. And for like whatever it was 10 days or whatever it was after that, we get to Madison Square Garden, and it went down, I was waiting to have a heart attack in the locker room. I'm just like, this is not going to happen. And then when it happened, I was just like, wow. It was one of those, and I'm not a mark. I'm really not. And, but there's just something about, because that championship belt it didn't change hands very often. And we all went out and we went to a place called Scores that Howard Stern made famous. It's a adult dance club. And it has girls. And Vince went out with us, like everybody, he said, pick 10 of your friends, we'll go. I said, just take the whole crew, man. So we all went out, and I got back to my hotel, and back then you carried it from town to town. You had to carry the belt. Now the minute you get out of the ring, some person grabs it and puts it in some case so you don't, because God knows you want to steal a fake belt that you're going to use the next day on TV. It's missing. You had it. So I unzipped my bag, because everybody has like we used to call it your work bag and then your regular luggage. So your work bag has all your gear in it. And it was, you always, when you were the champion, you always put the belt on top because it's the last thing you put in. And I unzipped my bag and I just set it on the bed. And I just looked at it and I was just like, wow. Like you made it. And there was always this thing that I had always heard, like Mach and Hogan, like I said, I said, what you gotta do the night you win the belt is you gotta wear it in your hotel room naked. And whether it was a rib or not, it was one of those things like, well, I don't want to break tradition. So I took off all my clothes and I put the belt on and stood in front of the mirror. I said, looks pretty good. So does the belt. Oh!
Good evening, Kevin. A few months ago, there were some rumours in the media that you'd be coming. The WWE wants you back into WWE as a role of a bodyguard for Dolph Ziggler.
No, I pitched that. That was me who pitched that idea.
Do you have any future intentions to come back to WWE under any capacity?
I would do that me and Ziggler are good buddies. So, I think that'd be fun. It was like anything else, though. Anytime they ask you to do anything, you forget. Like right now in my life, like I go home from here and I don't work for 8 days. You don't work, you would never get 8 days off. Because if you just work Raw, that means you work every 6 days. And you travel on Sunday, which means that's 5 days. You travel home on Tuesday, which means that if you just work Raw, that's 3 days out of your life. Every week for as long as you do it. And now all of a sudden you're working on a 4-day week. And you just haven't, unless you've ever done it. And that's just that. That's not being on the road. That's just in that capacity. It doesn't work for Dolph if I'm not on every show. So now I'm 57 years old, I'm on the road 300 days a year. For what? For what? It would be fun to do it. It would help him and get him in a good position. It'd be nice to be back. That would wear out in probably a month and a half. It's a very, very rough life. And once I saved my money. So it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like I'll make more in residuals for Magic Mike 2 and back in money than I had probably the last 10 years wrestling. So why would I do that when there's a chance that maybe I get Deadpool 2 and I get to play Cable? Maybe I do. But Fox, Fox, don't be fucking yelling back there. I'm sorry, what's your name? Okay, is it the Night with Joe? Is it the Night with Joe? Shut the fuck up. When the microphone comes back there, you can talk. This isn't open, this isn't open. Oh, the big guy just told you sit the fuck down. The heater. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Swayze. Let me finish. I got you, dog. Don't let you die. Now you throw me. Now I've had so many concussions. I don't know where the hell I was going. But with the cable thing. So I actually, my agent, I got an email from my agent yesterday and said, Fox wants to know your availability in early January. So that's a good thing. Doesn't mean I get it, but it means they want to know if I'm open or not. And I've got another movie signed that I'm going to be shooting here in the UK called Dreamfinder. I think we were supposed to do the press release on Monday, but I've got to go home, so I'm not going to do it. So I mean, I've got films lined up. I've got stuff to do, and it's really nice when you get to the point in the film where it's like if anybody thinks that, anybody see Deadpool 1? Yeah. Anybody think that's Ryan Reynolds doing all that shit, or somebody else, some stunt guy in a suit? Yeah, that's the nice part of it. Okay, action time. Kevin, go ahead and sit down. Gray-haired stunt double, do your shit. Yeah, it's a much better life. What would you like for lunch, Mr. Nash? The salmon and the fillet. WWE. What would you like for lunch? Like a ham sandwich? Yeah, not so much. So no, there's nothing more I can do in wrestling. Once they put you in the Hall of Fame, what are you doing? You know? Like name a baseball player that came back. Like name a football player. Name a UK football player that's come back after he's been put in the Hall of Fame. Nobody, right? Just you don't do it. I mean, that's when they put you in the Hall of Fame, they're basically saying, stay home.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Mr. Matt Ward, one of the promoters who put this night on for us tonight. And on this subject, who's just ran away, Mr. Michael Slayer as well, one of the other promoters. That deserves a round of applause too.
I've got a question. Was at Newcastle, slightly hammered, and Thursday it was. Thursday. And you told a great story, but I can't remember half of it. So I was wondering if you could talk again about the time in WrestleMania 18 when the NWO came back, and what people's perceptions about how Hogan and Rock was going to be with...
What was supposed to happen?
And how people thought The Rock would be compared to Hogan, and your reaction.
Oh, yes. No, but that was actually, it was the build-up. So we were going into WrestleMania 18. And I just watched, I've never watched in my life the DVD, The Click. And I have the network on my phone today, and I wanted to see if I could, there was that cruiserweight tournament. I wanted to see if I was caught up on the cruiserweight tournament. So I was looking at that on my phone. And underneath it said The Click. I said, yeah, I've never watched that thing. So I watched, like, the first one's just like a documentary. And that fucking Jim Ross. I mean, just because he was the payoff guy. You know, he was the payoff guy, and we just wreaked havoc with his life because he was an habitual liar. You know, he lied. And he was like, you know, he was saying all kind of things. He said, yeah, when they came back the last time, it was pretty much a done deal, fizzled out. Well, fuck you. Who'd Oklahoma beat? Nobody. So, when we came back, we were going to Chicago. And like the cities the cities that really matter are New York, Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee. Like those are all towns, like tough towns, you know. And that kind of is the parameter of whether things are working or not, especially for heels. And so we're going to go to Chicago to the Rosemont Arena, 16,500 people, and they're going to do a face-off with Hogan and Rock for the first time. And I'm in the production office, and they're having a meeting, and they're saying, well, it's probably going to be about 80-20 Rock. And I went, 80-20 Rock? I said, no, it's going to be like 80-20 Hogan. Everybody looked at me like I was like speaking out of, speaking tongues or something. Lo and behold, that night they do the face-off, and it's about 90-10 Hogan. Then we put Rock into an ambulance, and Hogan runs into it with a semi-truck, and the arena erupts. The next night at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, we leave Austin and Rock laying, and they stood for a half hour after we went off the air and applauded. And I'm thinking to myself, like, then about 4 days later, I get a phone call, and one of my friends says, that works in the office, just want to let you know, the NWO shirt's the #1 selling shirt. It just passed the Steve Austin What shirt. And I said, we're done. Because Steve made all of his money on t-shirts, and Steve was the guy that, carried them through the promised land while we were beating their ass, and ended up, being the guy that beat us. So Steve was God. There was no way. The next thing you know, we're supposed to beat Austin. Me and Scott are supposed to beat Austin at WrestleMania in Toronto. Hogan's supposed to let Rock slip over. Me and Scott are supposed to hit the ring and leave Rock at WrestleMania in a pool of blood. Could you imagine like leaving with heat on a WrestleMania? That was the original plan. What transpires, for those that are too young that saw it, was Scott and I got stunned by Steve Austin. Picked ourselves up, ran down to the main event, which was next, and had Hogan, who we came in with, turn on me and Scott, and him and Rock beat our asses and knocked us out of the ring. I was just like, well, Jim Ross didn't have much left. Yeah, after Kennedy took the headshot, he wasn't much of a president.
Good evening. A lot of people talk about wrestlers from the past as well as wrestlers from the present, and the one person I would like an opinion on is the Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior?
Yes, please.
I'm just personally not a fan. Just not a fan of his. I just don't like the human being. Never got along with him. I mean, the epitome of a mark. When you change your name to Warrior and sign your driver's license, you got some serious problems.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the last question of the evening.
Oh, pressure. Can you wrap it up?
Hello there. I just want your opinion on what happened with the whole Goldberg situation about you beating the streak.
On Goldberg?
Yeah. And how you felt about it.
How did I feel about it? I remember Goldberg, he came up to me that day, we were at the MCI Arena, and he says, December 27th, the day Goldberg's streak ends. I looked at him, I said, December 27th, the day my mom died of cancer, and that's real. And he just looked at me like, ugh. Like, come on, man. Number one, the guy didn't wrestle that many times that year. He would be on Monday Night Raw, he'd be on Monday Night Nitro. He'd be 9-0, he'd come back next week, he'd be 27-0. Where's the Twilight double headers? He wasn't on the road with me, I was making every town. Like, where was this guy getting wins at? Down at the training center? I mean, it just, you can't sit there and say that I haven't had a streak and it be complete bullshit when you were probably 62-0 and 41 of those were against Bill DeMott. I mean, when you just saying that, like, uncle. I mean, that's every guy you work with in this business, you know, 90% of them. dude, man, guess what? You know, when you lose, you go home, your wife still loves you, your kids still love you, because I hope you smartened them up and told them it was fake when you left the house. Because a lot of guys don't. A lot of guys walk around and want their kids to call them champ. You know, you're a champ. You know what? You're a champ if you're in a shoot sport. You're knocking people out for real. If somebody comes up and says, your turn to go over tonight, and you feel good about that, you think that makes you, you know, it's one thing to put, the only thing that's good about going over, if you out-politic that guy to go over, if you outplay the guy, that's worth it. But it doesn't make the win any more special. The guy still lays down for you. You know, the night that I smacked Pierre around in the ring and powerbombed him, that was the finish. It was just a lot more forceful than probably it would have been had it not been, you know. The bottom line is, I've never seen anybody go over in the ring that wasn't supposed to unless somebody got hurt. And they're laying there and they said, pin me. And that's the truth. Like, nobody goes out there and says, I think I'll just take one on him. Because the minute he does that, then that breaks the ethics code and you're done and you're never going to work again. So, you know, I love Bill to death. Bill Goldberg is a great father, great husband. He's an animal advocate. He's a sweetheart of a guy. He just got in the business and got an incredible push, and he turned into a mark for himself. But they pumped his name through the loudspeakers. I mean, a lot of that was manufactured, and God bless him. I mean, you know, he's on the cover of the next, you know, the next WWE game, and I think that's a $250,000 payday. So, you know, I mean, God bless him. I love him to death, but at the same time, I didn't break no streak. I tell you what, I cut a promo in St. Louis against him, and I said, I knew a guy named Diesel that from 1994 to 1995, because I wrestled 364 matches, either tags or singles, because we did on the like Superstars and shows like that, we would wrestle 3 and 4 times a show. And I keep a log of everything I do every day of my life. And I went through and I counted, I think it was 364 times I went to the ring and did not lose. And that was like a legitimate number. And this guy's got 62 wins and he's bitching because his 182 streak got beat. Fuck you. With all respect.
Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of respect, we are in the presence of a true WWE Hall of Famer and a revolutionary in professional wrestling. Mr. Kevin Nash, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here in Leicester. And Leicester, please show your respect for the man who was chosen to join us here today.